Hi,
Hi.
welcome back. After Hoyo dropped the developer radio 2 days ago, I was thinking of new video ideas to make about the situation since it's getting so much traction, and since it ruined all my other video ideas of on the game. As some of you may have already seen, I made a video discussing the Acclaimed banner and the reruns coming along with it, and I think I want to discuss reruns a little more. It all depends on how StarL is actually going to buff older units. Rerun units may become incredibly useful, and you may actually want to consider them depending on your account. Silverwolf may not be as huge of a skip as we thought before. So, in this video, let's talk about why reruns may actually become very useful now, and how StarRail needs to handle older units for them to become useful. Now, when talking about reruns, some of you may consider spending some expendable income on the game. If you're thinking about that, why don't I introduce you to today's sponsor, LootBar. If you've never heard of LootBar, it's a platform that facilitates recharge transactions for hundreds of games, most notably Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. LootBar is cooperating with the Hoyoverse routing partner, allowing users to enjoy all official recharge events safely and securely. LootBar supports international payments, offering up to a 23% cost advantage compared to in-game purchases by leveraging favorable exchange rates, which also avoids the Apple tax for iPhone and iPad users. Also, if you click my link in the description or the pinned comment, you will get a further 8% discount for your purchase. All you have to do is log into your LootBar account, select the game you want and the pack that you want to purchase, enter your UID right here and the server region right here, and then click purchase after entering your payment details. And then the currency will be deposited to your account within a half an hour. They've also partnered with many big content creators you've definitely seen before, and they also have thousands of 5-star reviews. Customer service will also be right at your fingertips if you have any questions or concerns. Again, head to the link in the description and pinned comments where you can enjoy all of LootBar's services as well as an extra 8% discount coupon. Now let's get back to it. So let's talk about two different ways they could buff up older units and what are the results of each. The first way they could buff up older units is the very lazy way, and that is simply just increasing their multipliers. While this does sound like it could work very well, especially for units like Zila and Dr. Ratio because they have pretty well-designed kits with little weaknesses aside from multipliers, it still wouldn't really make them much better in the meta because they'd still have basically the same weaknesses as before. Zila would still need to defeat a whole-ass enemy to proc Resurgence, which without the Trotters in the current MOC or bosses that spawn many minions like the Big Bug, she'd still be another crit DPS with no distinct advantage over any other DPS units. And I doubt they'd make Dr. Ratio better than Fei Xiao in any way, shape, or form, so he'd still be basically where he is at today, with anybody who has Fei Xiao forgetting about him completely. Other than that, it would also keep units with huge flaws in their kits, like Blade, Jingliu, and Danheng IL in the ground where they are right now, and it wouldn't really solve their issues well enough. Jingliu would still have 2 whole turns where she does all damage, and Danheng IL would still be incredibly skill point negative, and Blade could reach 300k with a multiplier buff, but he'd still suck. If they did indeed simply buff up the multipliers, not much would change honestly. However, we did get a few unreliable leaks from a bunch of sources saying they'll do more than that, but so far they're just questionable, so I really won't discuss them much. If you're curious, go ahead and join the Express Run Discord server to check them out. In my previous video, I already talked about a few examples of what a good redesign for these older kits would be. Not necessarily making them stronger than new units or making them overpowered, but definitely making them a lot more viable. That is the second way they could buff up older units, and it would be the good ending. A character like Silverwolf is very useless right now, and people are very excited to see how they'll buff her up. All she needs to be good is to just have some more defense threat with her ult and to be multi-target or AoE. Others are advocating for her to be able to choose the weakness she applies based on the slots of the allies in the party. If Silverwolf got a buff like that, I believe she would be pretty worth it for a rerun, but I also think she wouldn't be a priority whatsoever. Jiaocho would 9 times out of 10 still be better than her unless she gets a lot more defense threat. Even then, he'd still be better for Acheron. She'd be Acheron's second best in slot at E0, but how much more worth she is than Pella would be questionable, especially again if they don't give her more defense threat. I think for her to be significantly more valuable than Pella, she needs at least 55 to 60% defense threat on 3 targets with her ultimate, so that she has more defense threat than Pella with the Sweaty Lycone. I've also seen a lot of people say that Pella can have 2-turn ultimates, so she regenerates more stacks for Acheron, but honestly to do a 2-turn ultimate you would need to use her skill twice. Skill point economy of the team becomes questionable, however, Pella still ults more frequently than Silverwolf, so she does have that edge. If they want to make her more valuable than Pella and a decent choice for people who do or do not have Acheron, they definitely need to give her an edge over Pella when it comes to almost everything about her kit. Sure, she'd have the whole implant and resistance shred thing, but in on-element situations where the implant isn't very useful, if she doesn't have an edge over Pella, she'd still be very useless and not worth your pulls. Unless of course she's one of your favorite characters or you're using Dr. Ratio. Now Silver's situation is that she's just currently worse than a 5-star unit in basically every situation except Mana Quantum, which is a dead team right now anyway. However, someone like Jingliu used to be the best DPS unit in the game, and right now she's obviously dead in the water. Now if they do fix her kit pretty well, I can't imagine her becoming better than Big Herda, who's an ice DPS unit as well, or even Acheron. She would definitely become competitive with them if they buff her up well enough, but she wouldn't be better at all unless you have Eidolons. So in her case, I also from a complete meta perspective wouldn't consider pulling on her rerun, unless, again, you really like her. However, I also wouldn't recommend skipping these characters either, and in the case that they do become valuable, there is no reason to skip them if you like them. If they do make them viable enough for use in the endgame content consistently, even in the case where an enemy isn't ice weak for Jingliu, you could use Silverwolf with her and things would be great, especially if they give her multi-targeting. I do expect them to eventually make most old units pretty damn viable, so for those looking to get their favorite units, I do expect it to become pretty worth it after all, especially if you're also getting Eidolons, which most people do get for their favorite units. Now I don't expect them to change any Eidolons, which is a shame, because someone like Sparkle has pretty garbage Eidolons. I also don't expect them to make any Eidolons part of base kits in favor of new Eidolons, because they'd want people to pay for them instead. Also a shame, because I feel like Dan Hangzaiel's E2 should become a part of his base kit if they want him to become relevant again. I'd be very surprised if they do something like that, but it would be a very pleasant surprise as well. For the final section of the video, I want to say that 3.1 and 3.2 are going to be the most consequential updates ever for Star Rail. I made a video talking about 3.0 making or breaking the game, and it absolutely flopped very badly. For me, 3.0 was probably the worst major update in Hoyoverse history, possibly even gacha history as a whole, but I haven't really played many gacha games so I wouldn't know. The leaks we are getting are saying the old character buff rounds are going to start in 3.1, with around 5 units buffed up every update. If they just buff up the multipliers, it's going to be terrible. If they actually redesign the bad aspects of the character kits while maintaining their original essence, it would be an incredible start. And while the buff rounds in 3.2 are also going to be very important, the story aspect is going to be even more important. 3.1 story is probably going to be pretty mid because the banner characters are just My Day and Tribby, and while My Day is pretty cool, Tribby's the lamest character I've ever seen. However, when Castoris is the banner character, during the anniversary of the game, they absolutely have to deliver with the story and specifically the story she's a part of. If they give us another 3.0 situation, then many people are going to lose hope in the story. They did address it though, so let's hope they actually deliver. For as long as I can remember, power creep and story issues are basically the only two things plaguing Star Rail, so if they fix them well enough, then this game is going to go back to being one of the best gachas, so let's see what happens in 3.2. That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this in the future, because not many of you are actually subscribed. You should also join the Explosion Discord server for a fun community where you can find news about the future updates to see if Star Rail will actually fix their game. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.